South Africans must know, you must know, that drugs in the main that are found in crime scene, me as a provincial commissioner, I cannot guarantee 100% that entire consignment that is found in the crime scene is the same consignment that lands at forensic. It's the same consignment that is destroyed. Firearms are found in crime scene. On register, they are destroyed, but the police find the same firearm in another crime scene. So if it can happen with guns, the likelihood is that it can happen with drugs. The belief, the intelligence we get is that the information at hand, the honorable members that are within the police committee can tell you, the police does not test 100% of the consignment we get in our forensic.
It is unfortunate that people who are involved in stealing of those drugs and those guns that the general is speaking about are the police officers. He further explained this when he was asked about General Khan. Listen here.
Honorable Chair, a member of Flying Squad in Soweto, after learning of what's happening in Eratin, that member decided to phone Khan to come to the scene. Khan arrived in the scene being mobilized by a member from Flying Squad who works in Joburg. Why did that member choose Khan of all the people to come and attend the drug issues? I said to you, and I'm saying it again, big consignment of drugs were found there. Khan left it with the PCI. The question remains, did all those drugs arrive at forensic? Were all those drugs destroyed? The modus operandi can tell you. Don't steal on the crime scene. Take it. En route to forensic, we swap it. When it gets there, it's diluted, and the forensic analyst will test only 10% of it.
That is the reason why police capture criminals, confiscate those drugs, but at the end of the day we still have drug problem in our country because they have a way of manipulating and bringing those drugs back into the street, and that is done by officials.
SAPS has fallen in the hands of gangsters. SAPS is a crime den. You have drug dealers in the Western Cape telling you, no, we control the police. Colonel Kina was shot dead. It's coming from within the police. So the president did right by having a commission, because South Africans are not ready for what's going to come out of there. It's a crime den. They have nationalized our police force, the criminals. So this thing needs a commission, because all the guns that shoot the people in the Western Cape come from the police.
During the week, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, I'm not certain about the date, Major General Finn from DPCI, also known as the Hawks, was testifying in the Madlenga Commission of Inquiry, giving us more details on the drugs. Who are involved in bringing the drugs to South Africa? Because most of the drugs come from abroad to South Africa. I want to emphasize that. Most of the drugs come from abroad to South Africa. I'll play his video. He'll explain further who is behind those drugs, because now at the present moment, we think it's only police officers, but General Finn will tell us and will give us more details. When General Mkhwanazi was testifying in the Ad Hoc Committee of Parliament, this is what he said about borders, and this is so important so that you'll understand better what it is that Major General Finn will be saying.
Our borders. If we don't do anything about the control on the movement of our borders, we're not going to stop these drugs. Regardless of what we do with the cartel, we will not stop the drugs. I said when I presented that it is not only the big five that we have a problem with. They happen to be closer to the government officials, senior government officials, and take control of the entire security cluster. These five. But there's big dogs out there that are sitting and smiling. That are making billions of friends on bringing these drugs into the country and packaging them and reselling them. So until we control our borders, a typical example, police officers we have in the borders, they've been there for ages. The employment condition of a police officer is not easy for you to say you are here on a contract for 1 year and after 1 year you must move. We go through all the labor process to try and remove a person after we've placed a person in one spot. because there's no flexibility in terms of our labor laws, employment condition in the police. It must be looked at. It doesn't matter how good I might be about KZN, but the moment I'm so used to the port of end on Durban and I'm so immense into corruption, whether it's taxis, whether it's CITs, whether it's stock theft, whatever it is, I might need to move from that province and go to another province. Take me and say, now go to Limpopo. You become a provincial commissioner and see you can do what you're doing here as a civil servant. But we don't do that. We become so used to the environment where you're working, and then the criminality then start cropping in, because these criminals either threaten us or they're going to bribe us, either way. So that's what we see happening in the borders. And I must say, it's not only the police in the border. Almost everyone that works there gets involved with the syndicate from all different departments, different entities in the border. They get involved with syndicates that are working there. So unless we do something about those border controls, we're not going to stop this. So that is the number one priority for me on the borders. Cash in transit, secondly, and the third one, we must start looking at the tenders. That's how we're going to stop this cartel. If we don't do that, you close the borders, they have cash in transit highs. You close that, they still run tenders because they're controlling some of the procurements that are happening, and they still enjoy life.
I was just laying a foundation for Major General Finn because he's the one who will elaborate most of all, will cooperate with what General Mkhwanazi said about the borders, and I like the point that General Mkhwanazi is saying there must be a rotation of members that are working in the border management. There must be a rotation because all the illicit goods that are coming into the country, they come through the border. It doesn't matter whether it's clothes, whether it's drugs, whether it's cigarettes and explosives. But all those illicit goods, they come through the border through corruption. I think in a few weeks or a month ago, the Border Management Authority fired about 50 of their employees and 30 of them were going through a disciplinary process, meaning 80 officials were somehow involved in the corruption that is happening in our borders. Unfortunately, 50 of them were found guilty and dismissed, and 30, they are still going through a disciplinary process. It shows you how vulnerable our borders are. Let's listen to Major General here.
As it is now,
Right.
and then I will then place it on the record, Chair.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, arising from this picture, at your paragraph 22, you don't need to go there, General. You, at the end of that paragraph, you say that paragraph 22 on page 8, you say that the rip-off is normally done at destination. Here again, corrupt officials will break the seal, open the container, and I think that's what this photograph is speaking to. Is it necessarily just the officials who can do this, or is there harbour and that arrangement about which I know nothing, such that even private individuals who are part of this plan or scheme?
Indeed, Commissioners, that's why I indicated that corruption takes place within both the public and private space. So when we refer here to officials, it does not necessarily mean that it's government officials. It can also include officials working in the harbour or at the depots where these containers gets opened and unpacked in some instances, or forwarded by means of road freight. So it goes for both sides.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Ms. Siba.
Thank you. I'm just going to go out of sequence just to show what a seal, an intact seal, looks like, so that the commissioners can see what the significance of the duplicate. If I could ask you to just go to photo 2 of the 22 June photos. That would be the seal that you're referring to.
That's correct, Commissioners.
And so that seal would be removed to gain access to the cocaine, and then the duplicate seal that's been left inside is then used to replace that. Would that duplicate seal have the same barcoding and numbering as the original seal?
Exactly the same, Commissioner. Then that's the mode for them not to be detected, because if the seal number differs, obviously when that container is opened, or before it's being opened, the final destination will detect that something went wrong and that the container was opened after it left the port of origin.
Thank you. Then if we can go back to your statement, I think we're on page 10, paragraph 26.
Before you go
my
there,
apologies.
sorry to keep going back, General. What became of this cocaine bust on 30 July 2021? You see, now I've become curious. I hope it didn't go missing as well.
Commissioner Kumalo, can I ask that the General explain its significance later when he gets to the 22 June?
The other
Yes.
one? Okay.
Yeah. There's a reason why he's referring to it, because it's so close in time. Thank you. Proceed, General.
Thank you.
Paragraph 26.
Thank you, Commissioners. Cocaine and heroin are smuggled into the country primarily for the local market, but is also repackaged and for onward trafficking to another country. In other words, the criminal grouping or syndicate in South Africa would assist in repackaging the drugs to make it easier for onward smuggling to another country, usually to Europe. Port authorities are particularly vigilant when vessels arrive from Port of Santos because of the prevalence of drug trafficking from that port. Successful entry into Europe is more likely if the consignment is rerouted to less suspicious countries before onward movement to Europe.
So in this instance, would South Africa be the less suspicious country, or does it go somewhere else from South Africa before it enters Europe?
Well, it depends on the route of the vessel, Commissioners. That will dictate whether there will be stops in between as well.
Thank you. Paragraph 27.
The main trafficking hubs in South Africa are the Durban Harbour, OR Tambo International Airport, and the Lebombo Port of Entry. Bulk imports are mainly through the Durban Harbour. The smuggling via OR Tambo International Airport is primarily by way of people referred to as drug mules who would smuggle the drugs in their luggage or on their person, such as in body cavities. Bulk trafficking through shipping containers is usually undertaken by sophisticated syndicates. Commissioners, I can also just mention here that except for this harbour, the Western Cape Town Harbour, Saldanha Harbour, as well as smaller harbours towards Port Elizabeth and so forth, are all being used to a lesser extent, although for these smuggling and trafficking activities.
Thank you, General. Then can we move on to the next subtopic, which is the synthetic illicit drugs?
Thank you, Commissioners. Synthetic drugs are manufactured through chemical processes rather than derived from natural plant sources. In many instances, since they are not classified as controlled substances in South Africa, the chemicals used to manufacture the drug are sourced through lawful supply chains, but are then diverted or misused for unlawful purposes. Controlled substances are also imported illegally or smuggled into South Africa. The most prevalent synthetic drugs in the country are methamphetamine, known as crystal meth or TIC, methaqualone, known as Mandrax. Methaqualone, known as Mandrax. Synthetic drugs are manufactured at what is referred to as clandestine drug laboratories or CDLs. There are super labs and kitchen labs. Kitchen labs are found in businesses and residential areas, and the equipment used to manufacture the drugs are the readily available equipment such as stoves and other kitchen equipment or appliances.
Sorry, General, before you continue, can I just take you back to paragraph 28 and ask you about the controlled substances that are imported illegally?
Yeah, Commissioners, when it comes to methamphetamine, the controlled substance used there is ephedrine. You get plant-based ephedrine from the ephedra tree in Afghanistan, and then you get the chemicals. Obviously, that's man-made or laboratory-made, and that is then ephedrine as a liquid in a liquid form. And then the active ingredient of methaqualone, of Mandrax, is methaqualone.
And so why is this ephedrine imported or smuggled into South Africa?
It is because it's a controlled substance within South Africa, Commissioner, so you cannot go to any chemical shop and just procure it over the counter. If you need it, obviously there need to be a legitimate reason for that. So, for instance, you are in the medicine manufacturing space, and then obviously you will be able to procure such controlled substances. So it means that the only way to get it into the country is by means of either misrepresentations on the import documents or smuggling activities into South Africa.
Thank you, General. You were busy with super labs.
Super labs are large-scale drug manufacturing operations using specialized equipment and producing drugs in significant quantities. They have extensive infrastructure with specially designed equipment, extraction fans, and reactor vessels. The special equipment is available in the country but is predominantly imported. Super labs are usually found in remote areas, on farms and small holdings. These locations reduce the likelihood that activities such as unusual odors associated with manufacturing of large volumes of drugs, noise or waste disposal will be observed. Once the drugs have been manufactured, they are distributed or disseminated into the market via complex networks. A manufacturer who has a super lab and thereafter distributes the drugs within their own network is referred to as an apex role player or syndicate leader. In July 2024, the DPCI detected and successfully dismantled a super lab on a farm in Groblersdal, Limpopo province, where methamphetamine was being produced. Methamphetamine to the value of approximately 2 billion rand was seized and 5 suspects were arrested.
Before you continue, General, if I could just then put up the photographs to demonstrate the Groblersdal super lab, and you can just tell us what we're seeing. Photo 1.
Thank you, Commissioners. On that photo is depicted the grand scale activities that was taking place on that farm in Groblersdal. What you observe there obviously is the extraction fans. That's the silver equipment that you observe there. Underneath that will be the reaction vessels. So that is where all these chemicals are poured into. It's mixed according to a specific recipe. And then it is placed obviously on top of a burner, a gas burner, and that is why you would see that there's a number of acetylene cylinders on that photo visible. I can see at least 2. And because obviously the reaction vessels need to be heated up over a period of time for the ingredients to come to the final product, which is then methamphetamine or crystal meth. Come to the final product, which is then methamphetamine or crystal meth.
Thank you. Photo 2.
Commissioner's photo 2 depict more acetylene cylinders. It shows us the extent of the activities that was taking place there, and it also depicts towards an efficient supply chain of equipment. So in addition to the actual manufacturing of the methamphetamine, the individuals involved there was properly prepared in terms of their logistics and the infrastructure that they need to effectively continue with the manufacturing.
Thank you, General. And then photo 3.
Commissioners, what's important here is not to focus on the person. It's not one of the accused. It is within that bucket, the blue drum, you can clearly see the crystals, and that is the final product, the methamphetamine, after it went through all the processes as depicted in the previous photos.
And 4 and then 5.